when you walk in a bank, you don't go, all right, I'm going to jump the counter, maybe. The screen comes up so quickly to snap your neck. Got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And as much as I was like, all right, I'm going to go out and be Jeffery Morgan today and rob a bank, I didn't pause for a moment and say, who does Jeffery Morgan really want to be? As much as I don't think that I had an ego, I think I lived up to the reputation. I wish someone had this conversation with me. The realisation was, probably looking back on it now, I wasn't conscious enough, but looking back, I'd say it was probably my mother's death whilst I was in custody. That realisation, definitely, I think, looking back on it now, is probably the first time I've answered it in this way.
Hi boys, today we have on the podcast Jeffery Morgan. He used to be a bank robber. We dive into some of the bank robberies. Now he's completely changed his life around. He's got a successful coaching business. He does leadership coaching for corporations and also at a social level. We dive into some of his bank robberies. We dive into how he built his business, how you guys can build your business, how he put his programs together so you guys will get a lot of value out of that. All right boys, also today's episode is sponsored by Steady Freddy. They've sent me this entire box. Now, I know some of you are having issues, with your sperm count, so they got the Ball Boost. So Steady Freddy's Ball Boost enhances stamina and sexual function. It also supports sperm health and production. Also, we got the Steady Freddy spray. So this is gonna make you last longer in bed. If you have an issue, go to steadyfreddy.com.au. With all those plastics, you can't even keep it up these days. steadyfreddy.com.au. Use the code 58. You're not gonna get 5% off, not 10% off, but you're gonna get 20% off of your purchase. Only if you use the code 58, F-I-V-E, number 8, steadyfreddy.com.au. They even sent me some wipes. I don't know what the wipes are for. Personal cleansing wipes. So do you want a ball boost? Yeah, so we got this.
For these balls?
So they sent me this as a sponsor, one of the sponsors for the podcast. They sent me this. Help me out. You open that out. This is a spray. This makes you last longer in bed.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's all organic, pharmacy medicine, organic stuff made by the doctor. And then you got your ball boost that helps you with sexual function.
Okay.
You want one?
Yeah, love the ball booster.
All right.
The ball booster's great.
There you go. Ball booster's all
right. Go the ball booster.
Let's go.
All right, here we are. The ball booster. Get into that.
steadyfreddy.com.au, 58. Get 20% off. Let's get into the podcast.
Ball booster.
What do you think of smacking discipline? Because I did read that. You've blown up on mainstream. They've written some really nice stuff about you. They even called you Mr. Morgan and everything. They've done a lot of pieces. I wish they were so nice about me. Mine are just slanders pieces that they do on me. But you had Mr. Morgan. It was a really nice piece, actually.
I think in the end, it's if I can show people, and this is what's very important for everybody, we're quick to judge because of how we're built from that family dynamic. The values are passed on to the next person. The young kid doesn't understand it. They just say, here's what mum and dad have taught me, or whoever it is that's caring for you. And now you've stepped into a conversation of how you're built, and if it sits outside of that, you'll sling judgment, you'll have a conversation that isn't equating to the other conversation on the other side, and then you get slandered. And I'll give you the greatest one on this: domestic violence. Well, it's easy to say, oh, Jeff's done that. If I was the person, right, I'm the perpetrator, woman basher and all of the above. And people got to understand there's no justification, there's no I'm not saying that it's right to do it, but you got to understand this: if we don't say to, hey, we're Jeff's friends, what happened there? Why is he built to respond that way? How can we reframe that so at the next opportunity Jeff acts better? And that's what I've done to myself, and I do with everybody else, not just on a how you built level. You could be a corporate. Trust me, corporates in these same positions. And yeah, to be able to do that, I think that's very powerful for anybody, because now you can, and going back to your original question, you can look at the person and say, where did they get the programming from? You know, a computer expert, he's programming something, bang, now Microsoft Word works this specific way, but we want it to work like Excel. It's not going to happen. And going back to the domestic violence, some people, my father being the greatest example of physical abuse, his perception is that I'm disciplining my son so he gets the most out of his life. I'm thinking, what a prick. But he's thinking, I love my son and I don't want him to be like those other kids who have gone down a path of destruction. They're getting themselves in trouble or whatever it is. And in between that is a disconnect between him and I that gets me to run away from home. So society's so built on judgment that we've got to sit back for a moment and say, how can we help this whole scenario? And look, I look back on it, the discipline he instilled in me in 12 years before I ran away still sits with me today. So, you know, it was a bad thing on one level, where I felt, but in a sense where the discipline side of things. So then I say, how can I replicate the discipline without getting that aggressive or something? And maybe it's the fact you could get, you know, we're in a jiu-jitsu place, maybe it's the discipline of bringing a kid here at 5 years of age and getting into it, and that'll roll off into their life forever. 3 weeks in, he was on the mat. I put his foot on the mat. I got pictures of him, but he's gonna grow up. It's an interesting thought. He's gonna grow up and not know life without jiu-jitsu, but I'm trying to figure out a way to not push it upon him so hard that he rejects it. Because, for example, like the discipline that he still did with you, it seems like initially you rejected him and the entire situation, but now you're looking back at it, you're like I've taken some lessons for it and I understand what he meant at the time. So at this stage, I'm like, all right, how do I get him into jiu-jitsu? And because I know there's a lot of great discipline from martial arts itself, and get him to enjoy it at the point and understand what I'm saying from the start. And that's the tough part as a parent. Boys, I just want to stop the episode and show you something. I'm sure you're enjoying it. There's a lot more to come, but this is important. This episode is also sponsored by loanoptions.ai. Go to loanoptions.ai/58. Now, just going to run you through what you do. So when you're here, it'll take you to this page right here, right? More options, more you, compare loans online. Compare realistic loan options with the power of data and AI matching technology. So if you're thinking about getting one of these types of loans, this is the best place that you can go to get them. Even if you don't know your financial circumstances, come here, put in the details and see what your options are. Clarity is a must for success, and you need to have clarity of what is the options that you have. These guys are incredible. So let's say you want a business loan. And by the way, in Australia, if you're a small business, you get up to 60 grand in equipment as a tax rebate. So go speak to your accountant about that. You can also get an equipment loan, buy all your equipment and get the rebate at the end of tax time. So I'm not a financial advisor, go to your accountant, but I know that for a certainty. However, let's say you have an idea. People don't take risks anymore. You have an idea. You're stuck in a dead-end job. You want to move on with your life and pursue this idea. Go click here. Say you want 60 grand because you're going to get all those equipments for your business. Continue. Let's say 2 years is your preferred payment period. All right? Continue. And then you've got a form to fill out. These will unlock and you will get an understanding of your options, and you'll have clarity over your success, over your pathway. And that is extremely important. As Jeffery Morgan spoke about in this episode, clarity is a key thing.
drawing a circle and putting down your good habits and your bad habits, but not bullshitting about it, being real about it, is a real thing. It'll put you in a pathway to understanding yourself. And this will put you on a pathway of getting to the foundations of your business. Go to loanoptions.ai/58. Now let's get back to the episode.
You said some great stuff, lessons in amongst that, like what are lessons that you can teach, and how can you get someone to see the benefit and value of any conversation is what we got good at. And that's what, if you can do that in a singular, so you're sitting down with another individual, whether it's even in dating, right, versus a business conversation in front of a whole presentation as an example, or conference, what's the benefit and value of the conversation? Otherwise, you don't speak someone's language, just switch off.
100%.
And it happens so much in our society. You go into a conference and they say speak for an hour. You've got to engage that audience for an hour. You better bring some real power bites and bring stuff that is new, innovative, allows them to learn their own lessons to take back to their environments to enhance them, whether it's business, whether it's individually. And then you're starting to think outside the box. And who says that your way isn't the right way? If you practice that, just like this, when this first came out, UFC, I was like, who the heck are these people rolling around on the ground, right? I'm like, they're going to get knocked out. They're going to, mate, they end up winning. And it's because what you don't know, what you can, you'll never be what you can't see. I always say that saying, right? And that opened our eyes and went, whoa, let's all learn it now. If you want to go through the UFC in that process, or do you want it even for self-defense? And I think even for a female to be strong, it's very hard to be strong in a position where males are just dominant in the strength sense. Yeah. So how could you use something like this to put you in a spot where you could do something to protect yourself at the highest level? Yeah. Pop a shoulder out, do something. Why not? Like if someone's attacking you, I'd highly recommend it. 100%. For a female to do it, fantastic. And I'd say come and do something of this nature. And then, so they, people say don't promote violence. Well, in the sense of protecting yourself at the highest level, if you're going to have something happen to you as an individual, you should be able to protect yourself at some point in time and understanding. So everything's about seeking to understand benefit and value of the conversation. Yeah. And I say, if as a female, if I could help you protect yourself on a dark night, if someone attacked you, would that be of interest to you? Your ears are going to prick up. How do I do that? Jump on the floor here, let's go through it and start to build that individual into the strongest version of themselves at that point in time around a component of their life. Because here's the thing, so many people are so strong at elements of their life, but they don't look at a holistic approach. And the holistic approach, I relate to a car. You can have the shiniest Lamborghini sitting outside, but if I start to undo the nuts and bolts, it all falls apart. So the nuts and bolts are the components of your life. You look at quality of life, your nutrition, training, what you feed yourself. And when I say what you feed yourself, your thoughts, your behaviours, your actions, to build integrity, self-esteem, self-worth, self-care, like the list would go on and on and on. But what we'll focus on at an educational level, I've got a PhD, but I don't practice. Let's say it was nutrition science. But now I'm eating fast foods on a regular basis, telling everybody to be healthy. There's a huge disconnect. And why? Because the person doesn't have the discipline or accountability on the other side of that PhD to actually get it done. They skim their PhD. Yeah, you've done it. You got the certificate to say that you've got a PhD in nutrition as an example, but you don't then practice it yourself. You don't train. You don't live a high quality of life as a person who should be a standard within an industry to help you live the best quality of life. Then there's a huge disconnect, and this is what happens with so many people. It's something I recognise. I came out, people that spoke great about me, Mr. Morgan, but there's so much that was more of, in the background I was doing toxic things in my own self that didn't sit well with me when I laid my head down on a pillow every night. And that's a conversation that a lot of people don't want to have with themselves, because you got to face the ugly version of yourself. When I was reading, you mentioned that I thought about, I don't want to die in jail. And then the switching of your life from that point to going in the trajectory that you're in now. What was that moment of switch in your head
that made you think that?
I've been asked like this question, and I've been thinking about it a bit. And I think it was, my mother died when I was in jail first from leukemia, and I had to go to the funeral in handcuffs and stuff of that nature. Then I had, a best friend of mine who I was living with at one time. He died, drowned on the beach. We jumped, same thing. Quick little story around that. Jumped off the rocks out at, I always get this wrong, Tamarama. Yeah. Tamarama. And basically, mate, waves go bad, crashes him up against the rocks, he drowns. So just understand life's so precious and short. We've got to step into this space and have this realisation. I wish someone had this conversation with me. I would have done it a lot longer ago, many years earlier. I would have stepped into this space and created change if I had this conversation given to myself, and this is for everybody out there. The realisation was, probably looking back on it now, I wasn't conscious enough, but looking back, I'd say it was probably my mother's death whilst I was in custody, and it made me realise, you could die in this place. And then you'd get people, old blokes that have been around for years in jail, and they end up dying in jail, and I'm like, is that what you want to do? And I think that crossover came to its head in Melbourne. I get arrested. We're going to trial for this bank robbery. I get found guilty at the end of that trial. I'd paid a lot of money for the trial. I'm thinking, could have saved that money and put it elsewhere. And, in the end, I was coming back to Port Phillip in a truck, and I think all those thoughts, my mother's death, my father's death, my mate's death, other people dying in jail, it was very present. Then thinking, why is this all happening to me? I started to flip out of the victim into the solution mindset, and went from, well, if everyone else can do it, why can't you do it?
Yeah.
And you operate at a high level, around this world. What's the difference between, if I broke it down, the qualities? Are you determined? Are you committed? Are you whatever? I was all of that and some. So all I had to do is choose what industry I went into, and that realisation definitely, I think, looking back on it now, it's probably the first time I've answered it in this way, would be my mother's death, and just realisation, because at that point I started to really change and think I want out, and I didn't tell anybody. But I was educating myself. I was doing things in jail, and there was 10 spots in a course for 6 months. And then if you didn't get in the 10 spots, you'd wait you'd have to hope that you got into the next bunch after that. And you've got to hope that you don't get moved jails in that time as well, because they just move you for random reasons. And I think, for me, that was that realisation. I just went down this path, and for whatever reason, once I made that decision, I didn't move jails. I was very lucky. I stayed in, because if you start a course 3 months in, you wake up at 5 in the morning, say, pack your bags. And I'm like, what for? And I don't know, you're on an escort. That's it. And then you try and get off the escort, because you just settle. It's like, imagine moving, you're living in your current house, and someone comes in and goes, pack your bags, end of lease today. And you're like, I've got 3 months to go on my lease. Or, I had 6 years left on my sentence. Like, we don't care, find another place. And they move you from Lithgow to Goulburn. It's just like, so 1 minute it's colder, and now it's even colder, even darker. But that realisation for me, in amongst all that darkness, I call it down, and I actually, I call this process slowing it down to speed it up. Yeah. And what I started to do was what do I want out of life? And I started to really, really refine it and define it. And to do that, I had to go back and say, why do I want to change things? What's been the catalyst? And I think looking at it and thinking about it from these podcasts, it was my mother's death. And I just
were you journaling back then?
Yeah, I was journaling every day.
Yeah,
I was a writer. I don't know, I did graffiti as a kid.
Yep.
But it was, I don't know, just my thoughts. And we all have them, million thoughts. Oh, I'm going to start a business. Oh, look at that tree and the bird in the tree. Oh, what's that bag over there now? And it's how you control those thoughts. And then I started to realise I had so many different thoughts, and what was the core, the core dynamics of those thoughts? Is it business? Is it making money? Is it relationships? And I started breaking it down. What do you want out of relationships? What do you want out of money? What do you want out of life?
Yeah.
And then I started to really be able to, because I had the time to do it, start to define that. Now I compress that time. I teach that to people and say, here's how you can compress 10 years of time by doing X, Y, and Z. And because I had the 30 years to sit in jail and go through that whole process. So 18 years by the end of 18 plus years, I don't know how many more than that.
That is wild.
It's wilder that I don't even know. I'm going to try and find it through the system. But when you're locked up as a kid, you get 3 months here, you do 6 months there, 3 months, 2 months here. You don't even count. That's not even counted in that 18 years.
People get in these sticky situations and they get overclouded and they feel like there's no way out of whatever situation, whether it's hanging out with people that are, toxic to their life, and they think they support them, but they don't really support them. And they get in these perpetual loops, and it took you journally sitting down and really assessing yourself and writing down what you wanted out of life. After that moment, the actions, what steps did you take then?
The first one, and this anyone can do this, draw a circle, right? Mm-hmm. Put yourself in the circle, and then it's like if I press a button on you, everything that you're built from drops out into that circle. So integrity, do you have it? Yes, no.
Yep.
Good habits, bad habits, all these complexities of how you're built as an individual. And you got to be the truest version of that when you do this process. And then you look at it and go, fuck, is that me? That's what I did. I go, fuck. Everyone would have said, Jeff, you look at Spanion's podcast, Hood Superstar, you look at other people, Mr. Morgan. But underneath, I was damaging a lot of women through my womanizing, cheating on my partner. I lost a partner that I really cared for towards the end, right? And it was because of the old version of myself. Did I want to lose my partner? No. I was just built in a way that I conducted myself thinking it was totally normal. And we do as society, we think that going through this whole process is normal. And let's say you're making $800 or $1,800 a week, and you think that's normal. That's my wage for the rest of my life. That's the value you put on your life, right? But what now could you do to level yourself up so you get 18 grand a week? And people say that's not possible. Well, there's many people that have shown that it is possible. It comes down to the prioritization of time and how bad you want something out of your life. Do you do it for an organization? Do you do it for yourself? Now, even in that process, for me, to go through this whole thing, I did a life plan on myself. This life plan is what we use with every single individual. They come through the program. How are you built? How are you structured? And then, the same circle, draw another circle. We've got us three sitting here right now as an example. What are the values of yourself and those in your environment? And then really look at it. Do they respect you? Are they causing you anxiety? Are they causing you stress? Now, assess the person and say, if I meet you and I say, hey, Diego, how are you, brother? My name's Jeff. I'm going to bring you anxiety, stress, make you feel like shit. And all of the above. It's the first time we meet each other, right?
That's real. That's real. True. Imagine that.
Right? What happens is I put on this exterior mask. I'm going to be the bank robber today. You're not going to know the true version of me. Yeah. I'm going to give you, you look sexy, Diego. You're beautiful. You're so educated. Oh, mate, love what you do. You go, I'm going to invite that person back on a date, right? I want to catch up with them again because now you've seen the masked version of Jeffery Morgan, the beautiful version, and that's what I projected to the world. But underneath, when I laid my pillow, head on that pillow, what version did I sit with by myself? And you can fucking trick the world, but you can't trick yourself. You know that you're bullshitting yourself. And when you sit down and you actually assess those in your circle, you're sitting there going, fuck, what the fuck? I've invited stress, anxiety, pain, heartache, lack of motivation, whatever it is, into my environment. If you choose that, then you've got to own it because you choose it, not anybody else. And I chose to be a bank robber. I chose to serve that time. And instead of, once I, as I said, slowed it down to speed it up, I looked at it and go, fuck, is this what you want? Like, do you really want this? What's it all about for you? Is it about the money, mate? What do you want to? Do you want to buy a Porsche? What do you want to do? Like, what are you doing it for? And I started to write it out and go, well, how come Joe Bloggs or Mary Poppins are cracking the same thing you're trying to get to? They're not serving time, and you know what? They're sitting up in a beachside mansion or living, and I'll flip that so other people understand this too, living a grateful life on the other end where they might have millions in their account, but they watch the sun come up with their dog every morning, and they're not fussed by the Ferrari. They've got a little Mini, right? But they're able to live the life that they truly want based around reading a book every day, listen to the birds chirping, and it's about the feelings, the emotions that they want. But to be able to do that, you have to deep dive on yourself. Not many people want to do that. And to do that, I always get people to unpack their invisible backpack. We all wear one. And your invisible backpack is, I'll take on, he's going to bring me anxiety and stress. I'll throw that in. You bring me trauma, I'll throw that in. Life's dished out some more trauma, stress, heartache, pain, throw that in. And that's before we've even started our journey towards our goals, dreams, aspirations. We're here at a base level. Now we're in the basement or 10 floors under the basement. And now we've got to rebuild that whole life. Do you understand? Just to get back to ground zero. And now this is what I've done over time, built so much behind each element of my life that I've got a huge buffer. So if someone was to die in my family, my perception is I better appreciate and live every second of life that I possibly can, rather than say, what a shit life, I wish it wasn't me. And we're all going to die. Yeah. And I've had the realization of it, so let's get the best outcome out of it. And my best outcome when someone dies, did they die too early? What didn't they do? How can I do it better so that I live a better quality of life? And that's me saying I respect what you taught me as an individual, and I want to make sure that I'm able to then pass that on to my kids, and they pass it on to somebody else. And it's something my grandmother taught me. When you share knowledge, your spirit will forever walk this planet through the individual that you shared that with. And if that passes on from generation to generation, I think with social media, you've got the huge potential for that to happen. Then why not share it to the world?
What's some things that you thought would be in that circle that wasn't?
Probably ego. Like, as much as I don't think that I had an ego, I think I lived up to the reputation. And as much as I was like, all right, I'm going to go out and be Jeffery Morgan today and rob a bank, or I didn't pause for a moment and say, who does Jeffery Morgan really want to be? Yeah. Because I went from survival, running away at 12 years of age on the streets, and that became such a habit. And I really recognise this. By 16, I was so entrenched in survival, I forgot to look at the rest of the world. And this is what the world does now, I've recognised. We get into a workplace and we just go through this constant cycle until we die. And we go, shit, you get to 70 and you're sitting around the campfire with us three now. It's late at night, campfire's going, and I say, tell me about your life. And you're like, I went to work, I woke up, cooked some dinner, watched some Netflix or whatever it is, right? And don't get me wrong, if someone is lit up and it lights up your mind, body and soul every day to do that, by all means, beautiful. But here's the question, because people go, yeah, I'm sweet, I'm in a place. But I say to people, if I was to give you X amount of dollars and you were to be able to do unlimited time, resources and money, what would you do? Where would you go? And who would you do it with?
Let's do it with Jay right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Where would you go?
All right. So if Jeffrey was to give you unlimited amounts of money, what would you do?
Time, resources, where would you go? Who would you do it with and what would you do?
I think that's a great situation to put yourself in, because most people don't really think too much about it.
And that's the first process, right? Because people, we go, same thing, we go through the motions just like I did as a 12-year-old kid. And just so everyone knows, I'm not justifying crime, domestic violence or anything I've spoken about, but we're giving you context to this conversation. We don't think about things. We go through school, then you're into uni, you get a casual job to pay your uni fees or survive. Now you want to move out from your parents because you want to, I don't know, maybe go on a party scene or go through the younger childhood, which I didn't go through, so I don't really understand, but I've seen and understood how it sort of functions. And then we get into the workplace, and that just rolls through from age whatever, 20 through to the time we die, and we don't pause for a moment, slow it down to speed up. And I say, what do you really want out of Jay? Jay goes, I'd actually travel the world continuously, right? He's shaking his head saying, yeah, sweet. And might be that. Someone else might want to stay here, have 10 different supercars. Yeah. Next person might just say, now I know I've got all that money, I want to wake up, walk down the beach, have a coffee, go and see my kids, bring them in, create a business for them. So my next question on the back end of that, why hasn't that happened for yourself? And as Jay said, we just don't get conscious of it. So we're like, we don't have, ask anybody now, I don't have time for that, right?
Yeah.
About something that's pretty, say it's your health. You don't make time for your health.
Yeah.
You don't make time for your wellness, you'll make time for your illness, period, right? So if we pause for a moment and say, wait a second, if they can't even do that for their wellness, how are they ever going to step into that conversation? Impossible. Because then, like, your wellness is going to put you in hospital. Heart disease, diabetes, cancer. Hey, my name's Jeff. I'm going to bring you heart disease, diabetes, cancer. Want to hang out? You're like, hell no. Or you can choose a better quality of life and minimise by X amount, this percentage, that percentage around each of those things that could come into your life. You're going to choose this side straight away, right? But people just go, I don't have time for it. And they'll make the time. My mother made time for every single chemo session she needed to get to. She wasn't the most
punctual.
I got lost. She wasn't the most punctual person, but I can guarantee she made every single chemo appointment and she made it early. And this is the thing. Why is that so important to us when it's going to save our life? What if prevention is better than cure, but what could you do, prevention better than cure, around life? And what Jay just said, what life would you do and where would you go? Who would you spend it with? And, you know, having time, maybe you thought about that. Was there something that would come up for yourself as an example? Planning
is a destruction of procrastination and time,
100%.
And emptiness is a lack of clarity. And this is what happens. People get empty and they get so empty within themselves they forget to live life. And I'm not saying you need X, Y, or Z in your life to be living life, but if you're not defining it for yourself, you're just accepting the program that's been put out to yourself and that becomes your life. And the same principle, people go, what do you mean by that? What I mean is that if you truly want to travel the world every single day, there's people that go out, you know, and leave countries with, you know, a couple of thousands of dollars and they just make things work at the other end. I'll get a job, I'll see people, I'll couch surf. And then they start to get creative. They build an online business. Now e-commerce has done well for them. And instead of having, you know, they were getting paid, let's say, $1,000 a week, $800, $500. All of a sudden they're getting paid that per day. Because they got desperate enough, just like the treatment side of things, that they went in and they started to do the groundwork instead of sitting around talking about, you know, the birds and bees of everyday life with other people. Now they've created a business around their passion. He's told me he's passionate about basketball. Go out and create a brand around your socks, just socks, maybe.
Yeah.
I bought socks that said I don't give a fuck on the socks the other day. As soon as I saw them, I was like, I'm buying them. Do that in basketball, I'll dunk on your ass or something. I don't know, you know, like, so, and tell me basketballers won't buy them, right? I'm not a basketballer. There's a business idea for anyone in basketball, even Jay. Like, go and put something out there on the shorts that says, I'll dunk on your ass. You ain't coming into my zone or whatever it is, right? You'll know the basketball talk, but you can even make a conversation out by yourself. Spaniards got hurus, right? Or young kids are loving it. Create your own thing around basketball, and all of a sudden, it's not, if people think, oh, New South Wales basketball, which is the local area here for those overseas, or the state, I should say. What about if he does that Australia-wide? Now, what about if he does that a worldwide? Basketball is a world game, and all of a sudden his socks are like, oh, have you seen those socks? And then you just put them in Spanish, you put them in Chinese, you put them in you know, any country's German, and all of a sudden his socks are selling out everywhere. And you can buy them online, we ship them out to another thing, you find it and purchase it through something like Printify or something of that nature, and Bob's your uncle, and you know, we just don't think on that conscious level because we're in such a grind. You'll become me as a 12-year-old kid who thinks survival was the normal way. Yeah. But by 16, I'd started to identify that, and then my mother's death, I would have been probably 26, so about 10 years later, I started to really... I'd moved towards it from 16. I started to read books in jail, journal, surround myself with people that would teach me different things. And then I started to think, you know, I'm learning these really high-skilled techniques in the criminal world to switch off alarms or whatever it was, right? Yeah. What if I could do this and have this same mentality in a business world? What would it even look like? And I had to overcome the fear, and this is why even during our program, overcoming fear doesn't matter whether you're a criminal or not. Overcoming fear is overcoming fear for a human being. So how did I do that? And then I started to go, if I can do it for myself, I can do that for everybody, and here's how to do it. And all of a sudden people stepped out of, self-limiting thoughts, behaviours and beliefs and how they were built as an individual and into their power.
Did you have fear of your past coming out of the 18 years and coming into the business world and looking like I'm not going to be a criminal anymore, I'm going to do the right path? And did you have that sort of didn't want to discuss about your past or wanted to put it aside and go that path until you were like, well, my experience is value and it's shaped me, so I'm going to use this and share it to the world and show how it can be overcome?
Absolutely. I had a lot of doubt and I didn't want to tell anybody. I was like, I'll build the respect up by being me. So trainer, nutritionist, brother commits suicide 216, sister commits suicide 218, another brother dies preventable health issue 219. And in that journey, I'll get out 210 to give everyone context to that. And I get through this process where first I become a training nutritionist. I do that for about 6 years, really high level, starting to do talks in the fitness industry, get around schools now. I get a TV show about 2 years after I come home. And now I'm at this point where I'm starting to get this belief, but I still had a lot of, and this is talking about that circle before.
Yeah.
You talk about Jeff Morgan, mate, that bloke will crush anything. Anyone that knew me, he'll go out and crush it. But when you don't know something, you're sitting in self-doubt. So going to talk in front of 3,000 people, as an example, you're like, well, you start to doubt yourself, but you got to go back to what you said. How are you built as an individual? You've read about this so much that I could talk on a cellular level around the human body versus how your mind works, how your gut biome would work or something of that nature. And all of a sudden, now we've got a good conversation and how I could high performance anybody's life. What are you doing in this space, that space, these different elements? And then when we did it, and we're up to nearly 800,000 people over the last 4 years, we started to see patterns of behaviour. And I was like, well, now I can tell you, or how could you build yourself around this space? What would you like to see in this space, as I said before? What would you do? Where would you go? Who would you do it with? Because now you're starting to build yourself into the greatest version of you, and people then started to make great money out of it. You find someone that's passionate, Michael Jordan, like the names pop into your head quickly. People then have a perception, I can't be that person, but you can. You can be that person around sewing, put it on YouTube, sew every day. You might put it out now and do a video on sewing and you'll get 1 view, no subscribers. But you keep doing it, and people that like sewing will type in sewing, how to sew on YouTube, how to do some knots or colours or whatever. I've got no idea about sewing, just so everyone knows. But all of a sudden, 5 years later, you
got technique, you understand how to do it.
Yeah. And I type in accidentally and sewing, and it pops up and it's like 300 million views. I'm like, what the? On sewing, but the thing is, there's people out there that love sewing.
A market, yeah.
If you become an expert and you dedicate your time, energy, and effort to that circle, so everything's about time, energy, and effort. When you tee off, good way to remember it, the circle is the ball. Bang, you smash that ball. You're Tiger Woods, you drive it down the fairway. You're driving that out into life. Yeah. Time, energy, and effort. So TEE. And then basically, is this space worth my time, energy, and effort? And you go, I met Jay, do I want to do business with him? What's he do? What's he about? Oh, it's not my field. And it doesn't mean that I don't like Jay. It just means that Jay's not my person around my direction of life. A to B of life, this is it. You're born, you die. Everything else is a C, conversation, and I say the C stands for see you later. ABC, and it's easy to remember then. Is it in my ABC intentions of what I want out of life? If it's not, it's a see you later conversation. And it doesn't mean that I don't like Jay or think he's good enough or whatever it may be, or there's a judgment. It just means that I've recognised who I am and what I want out of life, and he loves doing that and I like doing this, and it's two days. You're not going to go to a nightclub that plays music you don't like. If you get a choice, or jump in your car. If you don't go to nightclubs, jump in your car and you love R&B music, and I say, let's turn on classical, you're like, get out of the car, snap kick me to the moon. That's because it's the wrong music, and it creates an energy vibe in the space, to circle again, that you don't want to be in. Don't put yourself in these environments just because they're family and friends, thinking, I'll accept this because they're my family or friends. You can minimise the time with family and friends if they're toxic to yourself. And once again, I'm not there to push myself and my version of life on you. At the same time, I recognise it, and that just means I don't need to be in the same space as yourself for long periods of time. We're just not going to connect and have the same conversation, vibe, dance, connect in this space, and that's cool.
What's the internal dialogue you had going for your first speech, your first public speech on stage? You're about to speak to how many people was it first, and then you that grew. What was your internal dialogue going there? Because I'm guessing, like, as a bank robber or also as a criminal, you're trying to hide. You're not really trying to be in front of things. So that would have been a switch. What was the internal dialogue there?
There's a lot around that. You think, and this is what we think as society. I realised it wasn't just me there, and this is a great tool. Like, Mel Robbins gave a great tool to people. It was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bang, say yes to yourself. And by that point, you don't have time to talk the doubt into yourself and step into a place. For me, I did that organically. When I first heard that, I was like, that's what I've always done to myself. When you walk in a bank, you don't go, all right, I'm going to jump the counter, maybe. The screen comes up so quickly, it'll snap your neck, right? So you go, I'm walking in and it's going to happen. And I think, so organically I was doing it, but then I became conscious of it. I said, that's an action that requires I'm thinking about what my outcomes were. I want to take the money from inside the bank. As you go through that process, you got to go, I've got to act at its highest level as quickly as I possibly can. Otherwise, I can get damaged and hurt to the point where I die in this. Not only when I go across, but when I come out of the bank, are the police going to be waiting for me? Our last bank robbery, they watched us rob the actual bank, and we actually got away from the police at that point in time, despite them being out the front of the bank. Let that sink in, right? So the level of operation for us, I broke that down and said, if you can do that, then you can fucking do anything, right? But going to this first talk, I think it was at the fitness industry in Parramatta, and a good mate of mine who owns One Playground, Justin Ashley, had invited me down. Come down, I want you to speak at this thing with me, come with me. And we both sort of worked in tandem, champion human, very high-end operator. And you look at their gyms, they're beautiful gyms, best wellness space I've ever seen anywhere, right? And it's in Marrickville in Sydney, which for people overseas that don't know, it's not a rich suburb, but the fit out's like a place on Beverly Hills, right? And I went there the other day. It was absolutely amazing. And I'm not saying that because it's his gym. I'm just saying, look it up online. You understand the difference. It brought about a feeling and emotion, and taught me some huge values. But we go and do this talk, and same thing. You're like, fuck, am I worthy? Am I, But then I broke it down to, what am I going to talk about? Talking about becoming a PT, how to operate. And at that point in time, I was booked out from 5 in the morning till 9 p.m. Monday to Friday, 8 to 12 on Saturday. No spots, waiting list. And what I started to do was increase my prices. And I remember PTs going, you're crazy, you're not going to get that, mate. And I just kept increasing my prices. Once I increased it, booked it out at that price, increased it again, kept the wait list. Like, people were just saying, I'll train with you when I can get in. And I went, well, there's the urgency for people to be with me. I'll increase my price. And it just kept going up and up and up. So when I went and spoke, I felt I was strong, knowledgeable, educated, lived experience to be able to give the conversation easy. But to be honest, man, I had crackling in my voice. I was, sweaty palms. These days I can go out and just, and this is for everybody. We all have the first process when we step into an unknown environment. Even if, you say, hey, Diego, come to my party, and we're friends. We've been friends for a while. Come to this party. You still go there and you go, who's going to be here? Maybe I hope I know somebody or something. Yeah. If Jeff's there, I'm going to sort of be around him, we all do that, right? So the same principle, you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where you step into a space and you go, I'm the only one here, maybe. It's cool. And maybe Diego's invited me to his Brazilian party, and I get there and, you know, he's with all his Brazilian friends. What conversations can you have with these people? And people shift the conversations of convenience or shift into conversations of, hey, Jay, you play basketball, brother? Oh, yeah? Yeah, I used to play. But we're talking about something maybe that is only just filling time rather than saying, what could you and I do together? And it could be anything. Traveling, oh, you're going there, I love to do that. Oh, wow, let's go together, right? Or something of that nature. And when I say the basketball side of things, if that's not your conversation, and I say, oh, I used to play basketball as a kid just to kill the time, it's just a conversation of convenience. I'd rather have one conversation of courage where you step into a space and say, what do you do? And how does it align to yourself? And that becomes more intentful rather than just killing time. If I'm going to kill time, I'd rather lay on a beach and get a suntan, or maybe I'd rather go and walk my dog, be with my partner.
Yeah.
What you want to actually be doing rather than say, I'm going to come to that party. If you're going to come to that party, it's Diego's party, or here, happy birthday, brother, here's a present for you. So, look, you know, and you might stick around for a bit and then just realise it's not for me. And it doesn't mean that you don't appreciate Diego or the person that's there. You just recognise it's not your space.
I've only just started learning this and doing this. I've always been one to like constantly call people, constantly like if I'm at a place, I'm trying to do all these things, and then at time without any results in the end, and I had to go back and just assess myself and be like, who am I giving that time to, right? Who's draining this energy? And if someone can drain this energy that can be beneficial mutually, then that's the place to be. And I've just had that internal dialogue not too long ago.
That's realization awareness. Because if you don't, and you say, I'd love to have more money, right? You say, I'll go to Europe soon for 2 months, and now we're thinking about adding another 2 weeks to Portugal nice. As an example, like the missus is saying, and Dubai. So she loved that last time we went. No problems. And then someone will say, I can't do that, Jeff. And I'm like, well, what makes you think that you can't do that? Like on my job, because I have to work from 9 to 5 and in a space. And I'm not saying go and quit your job today. Yeah. But if you've got a business idea, and let me rephrase it. You got something that you're passionate about, and you go balls to the wall, which means you're reading about it, listening to it. So even driving over here, I'm listening to a podcast around how the human brain functions. Because now when I get in a space...
Huberman?
No, I do listen to Huberman. I highly recommend it. Yeah. But like, I'll listen to these different complexities of life, because that's what I'm about. If I'm going to be a coach, in the sense, when I say a coach, someone who taps into, and we were talking about this same circle: leadership, resilience, mental health and well-being, high performance habits and rituals, your mindset in general. How can I operate at those 5 levels, right? And I'm not just talking about, when I say mindset, what about your nutrition, life, training, your relationships, your business, your financials, all of it, right? Your emotions, your feelings. And I could go on, and I haven't even got to the next component. How many people would do that? And I want people to be honest with yourself. We know, trust me, I do it with people. I do it with athletes, soldiers, corporates, through to young kids and everybody in between. And what's the common denominator? They're all human beings. And if you're operating at a level that isn't serving your feelings and emotions on a daily basis, you're going to step into a circle that allows toxic behaviours. You don't have any boundaries on that circle. People just walk in, hey, come in, oh yeah, I just brought some anxiety for yourself, Jeff. Here it is on oh yeah, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Jay, come in. Oh, here's some stress for you, Jeff. Yeah, sweet, but you're my family, so I'll accept that. No, don't accept it. Have the boundaries, have the conversations, courageous ones. And that's what I had to do with myself, like you got to have a deep dive. And here's the crossover on that. When I deep dive on myself, I'd had so many destructive behaviours that I was like, I can't talk to Jay or yourself about that because I was that. So I'm a hypocrite. And what I did, I got so good at this, like you said, you're starting to get good at that sort of awareness for yourself. I got so good at the awareness of myself, I said, I'm going to draw a line in the sand right here. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to step across that line and going back to this domestic violence conversation and get the person to see things differently, the individual in that space. They're acting toxic, destructive, all the traits they don't want, no boundaries from other people. Oh, it's just bad. Step across into another space, even if you were the person dishing out the destruction, and say, from this point, I'm going to learn about how I can operate, act to a point where my belief system changes and I then don't step into that space and have to use violence, say in a domestic violence space, to respond in a situation. How can I do that? Jay says, brother, I don't approve of what you're doing, but you know what? I am your mate and I want to see you do better. I want to see you step across that line. If not, me and you are going to cut our friendship. I don't accept what you've done, but you're going to show me by saying, we're going to sit down together and talk about this, right? Because he's a great family man. I respect him. He treats his wife or partner with utter respect, opens the door, sits, pulls a chair out. These different things that have been lost for so long now, we're high-fiving each other when, I sleep with a girl. I come to Jay and go, bro, I got that blondie from the thing last night, high-fiving. He's like, bro, that's not cool. And all of a sudden, he's drawn the line in the sand for me and said, either you step over here or I step out of this circle, and me and you are no longer friends. And you got to do that with yourself, because you got to say, I don't want to be friends with the old version of me, chapter 5. I'm writing out chapter 55, and the villains become the hero in this space, and that allows you to start the transition into a better human being. To do that, like you said, if I want to learn about the brain, am I going to guess that? Huberman, let's type him in. Bang, I'm going to watch this. What's the lessons I'm taking from it? Whether I'm at uni, whether I'm at life, whether it's through lived experience, and now I'm going to practice it. Then I can step into this, across that line and be better at the action of how to cause a better reaction at that space. And if that's domestic violence and we expect a person who's not taught a new way to step, to stay in a space and go, you should be better, don't do that. The person might have seen their parents, and I'm not justifying it, nor do I condone it, but they're just going to go into the next one, and the next one could be even worse. And the person on the other side might not get through that, and that's what I want everybody to understand. Your neighbour, even if that's that person, sit with them and teach them. And if they continue to practice that and they want to be ignorant or arrogant, one of those two, then I'll step out. Jay's my friend. He says, oh, Jeff, I don't see you later. You're by yourself now. Because he's given me the opportunity, and if I respect my mate, as we should, then I'll listen and I'll learn from it, and then I'll move. And if you don't, like I said, I want to be ignorant to his information education, well, I'll go, see you later. Not my space.
But how do you know when to do that, see you later? That's a tough one. Like, I had a mate, Steve, he knows, he watches a lot of my stuff. But like, he's one of those guys that, mate, we grew up together. He's one of those guys that's just like party every single fucking day. Like, he wants to do lines, he wants to get high. He's one of those guys that, like, if you go to like 2 a.m. and you want to go like to sleep, He's like, there might be a chick going, Steve, let's go to bed or whatever. He's one of those guys that's like, nah, I got to party with the boys. I got to go all night. And he'll just go. But it gets to a point where he's in this perpetual cycle where he's every single time a weekend is over, he'll call me and be like, brother, I'm never doing that again. The next weekend comes. Where can I get, like, what's everyone doing? Like, he'll try and he's one of those guys that can't be alone either. He'll say, I really dislike this guy, but then if he's got no one to hang out that weekend, he'll have that guy at his place. And it took me a long time to be like, for you and me, if I cut this off, it's going to be better for you. And I know it would be better for me too. And he was one of those heartbreak moments, because I'd known him for so fucking long. And I remember exactly on the New Year's Eve, I was like, mate, this is this is it. And I told him, like, if we keep going, like you said, I set the boundary, and at the end, he crossed it a lot of times. I gave too many chances, you know what I mean? And then in the end, I had to cut it off. But when do you know when is the time to do it? I know I gave too many chances, but when do you know that maybe do you set it here, and if that is done, that's the one chance and that's it?
This is for everybody, and this is what I do personally, and each today, it's just a recommendation. I protect my space as much as possible. I'll have the respectful conversation, and then after it's done again, then I'll take the action, because I've asked you, and if you don't respect it, I have to show you that I'm integral to my own word. The integrity that's built into me, because if I don't, then you say, I can fucking push that all day, every day, and I can run it. A couple of things. Firstly, Stevie, wherever you are, reach out to me anytime. There's something that is underlying amongst that. And Stevie, if you listen, he'll know that, right? I'm telling you, because you're trying to mask something that's happened, period. I don't know Stevie from a bar of soap, but I know through those actions, that's definitely a conversation. And this is the thing about society, not saying that you did, but we might just brush him off as a party goer, or stuff him if he wants to get in and have judgment on him, rather than say, why is someone built in that specific manner to act that way? What conversations as a true friend? I love nothing better than if me and Jay are friends and Jay goes, Jeff, that's not cool, brother. And rather than going, oh yeah, and even though he feels uncomfortable, yeah, well done, bro, and then walks off going, why does Jeff operate like that in his head? That's making him feel uncomfortable in our friendship. And a friendship isn't about making your person feel uncomfortable. Yeah. You're bringing each other up, high-fiving each other for the right reasons and making one another feel good just by being yourself. Your greatest job ever is to be yourself. And that'll step people into a space that will allow you to operate at your best level and not have to go below surface level. Now fix yourself and now try and create a buffer. And what that means is each time Jay or I damage Jay's
self-esteem.
Your self-esteem. Now I've bring some girls in at a hotel and he's like, I'm married, bro. What are you doing? Like, they're just going to strip, brother. It's a party. Don't worry about it. No one's ever going to know, right? But he doesn't feel good about it. He goes home and he's like, I want to tell my wife I feel bad, but I didn't do anything. But Jeff brought it. It was Jeff's fault. If I know that about my mate, don't drink. I'm single, and going back even further with Stevie, and this is my thing on everybody, and this is, understand people, each to their own. It's a free world. I'm not here to judge anybody. If you want to party, my biggest advice, I've got a good friend that parties, but here's the thing. Here's two different scenarios. I've got two friends. I'll give you an example. One loves partying. I go hard, do everything, and they're smiling up and doing all, the social media side of things, great, but during the week has to borrow money off me. And I'm like, well, there's a problem there because you can't sustain that. And if not, the second side of things is what my other mate did. So created a business, made huge money, does, travels the world partying and so forth, behind DJ booths, all of that. So that's what I'd be fucking doing too. Like if I got it to its highest level, what are you doing in a party scene? If that's what you want to do in your life, going back to that original person, what would you do? Where would you go? Who would you do it with? If you had unlimited time, money and resources, they've created that. Now they can party all they want. And if they, and they say to me, I say, if you start complaining about the recovery process where you're banked up and you hate it till Wednesday and your nose is all clogged up and all, then you've got a problem. If you're enjoying that life and you can go through that and you're partying with Tiesto and I don't know, whoever the DJs are that you're aligned with, and that's your life, go hard at it, man. You're on a super yacht in the French Riviera or something, loving life, the music's pumping, and then next minute you're in some other country, Ibiza, in a club somewhere. Go hard, right? If that's the life you choose, because as I said, I'm not here to tell Jay, you need to get this to live a good life. Your good life is determined by yourselves. But if you don't even define it, you're A to B, then you're saying see you later to the life that you truly want. And that's when people have this realization, shit, you know what? I haven't even defined what I want out of life. Taking you back, that's where the life plan, gives them a framework, business type plan thing. You know, any business, we're in a set of factories, they've all got a business plan behind themselves, right? Same principle. You've done that on your life? No one does, because we don't have time. It's not part of how we grow up doing things. Imagine if you sat there and defined it, and as you said, you bring your child in here at a young age, you give them the opportunity. Do they like it? Do they not? Mate, you know, some kids want to be active, some don't. But if you say you should be active, you're going to push someone into a space and they'll become, the ego or the control of oneself will go up, and now you got a problem and disconnect. And you see kids, don't do that. The kid will keep doing, run around in circles, because we're not trying to bring ourselves into their conversation. They want to play. Let's play for a second, and then say, come down this way now. And then all of a sudden, I'm able to get that kid to buy into what I'm also doing, because I spent 2 seconds running around a table 4 times. And now we can walk down the aisle of the shopping centre a lot better. It's understanding or seeking to understand the person in that situation, and then saying to yourself, even in your current job, people go, no, I love what I do. Fuck, it's the best. And I go, come to Europe for 2 months. They go, I can't do that, bro. And I'm like, would you like to do it? And they go, yeah, I would. I'd love to do it. I wish I could do you. And I'm like, bro, you can do exactly what I do. And they're like, nah, I couldn't. And I'm like, mate, have you defined that? And why do you think that? And that's what I'd ask everybody. Why do you think you can't do what I do, or around your space?
Yeah.
It could be a chef. It could be anything. It could be basketball player. It could be whatever you podcasting.
Yeah.
Do it well. Grab people and say, I'm going to get, whoever it is, Mike Tyson, people, that are going, Tom Bailey, whatever it is that you're going to get these people, and how are you going to attract those people to be on your podcast? And each year someone says, well, you got a podcast that people want to hear, we'll sponsor you. Musashi is an example. We'll give you X amount of dollars. Yeah. You do something great, and it happened to me recently. Someone rang me on a Saturday and said, hey, Jeff, we've seen the latest news story on yourself, and we're an organisation, we'd love to put some money towards it because it's a great cause. Didn't know him from a bar or so. I still don't even know who that was. It could be someone G'ing me up, right? But I just had a conversation, and I had the conversation of what my passion was about, what I'd love to do, what the project was about, and I just let it be, because I recognise they're coming in. I'm here to create change. Yeah. And if it's not about how much money what organisation from me, give me the money. It's just I've got a passion to change and save people's lives, and people will either recognise it or they won't. And if that chord never comes back to me, I'm cool with that as well.
And you can surprise yourself, like me. I surprise, like when I started this, we're 100 episodes deep, and
wow,
getting deeper. And thank you. And just on TikTok, I'll stunt 2.6 million in the last month. What's up?
Let's go.
I'll stunt on them. Let me stunt on them for a little bit. But so, I surprise myself, and it's just that thing. Just if you don't try, right? If you don't set out, then you don't know what you can achieve if you don't take those first steps.
Hey.
And I wanna just get into some deeper topics, which will be for our locals only. So the 58tag.locals.com. Go over there. This will be some exclusive content. So just before we get there, do you have any last little questions that you want to get before we get into some topics that aren't allowed on YouTube and whatnot?
Okay. Question. I do remember vaguely how you were talking about who you surround yourself with plays a huge part in where your path will be in life.
Absolutely.
I've also noticed in my life, and I want you to speak on it, highly successful people.
Absolutely.
There always comes a time where I think they cut down on a lot of people around them to the point where they get to where they want to get to. And then once they get there, they realize that everyone around them is similar. And that's when they start to build that group around them again. So they go through a period of cutting everyone off, focusing on whatever they're doing and getting really good at it.
Yeah.
And then once they get really, really good, they start to see like-minded individuals around themselves.
Absolutely. It's like I relate that to a building, and it's no disrespect. I grew up in Everleigh Street, Redfern, the most notorious street on Australia's history as such. The media at that time, every single day there was something bad on the media, and you had bank robbers from there. Like, bank robbers would meet at the top of Everleigh Street. People won't want to hear this, but this is the reality. And say, what do you want to do today? Me and you meet, Diego? Yeah, let's go and do something. Me and Jay meet, let's go do something. That's like everyone, the meeting point was the top of Redfern. And criminals from across New South Wales would come down, meet there and go out and do something. That's the reality of it, right? So that was, and it's no disrespect to my own community, but that's how we were built. So say that was I thought it was a high level. You're making huge money, but I exchanged that time for money. Or money for time, realistically, the other way. Yeah. So where I got the money, but now I'm serving 7 years for the bank robbery the last time I did time, right? So was it worth it? We smashed the vault open. People, as I said, Spanian, hood superstar. That was the perception of it. But even that, we smashed open the vault. I can share that because I got charged for it. $250,000 was total, cleaned out the whole bank, nothing in it. And that's it, right? 250 grand divided by 7 years. How much is it? Do you know what I mean? I could have probably made more on a doll. True story. So then I started to sit, and this is how I was thinking. I was like, well, I'm at a level where my thought process is what our perception is of something is totally warped, because that's how we've been built for so long. And even in the workplace and space, that's what would happen. We get in a space where we think it's a normal way of life and this is how you do life, until someone comes along. And what happens is each level you go through, you grow through. Yeah. And that means that you're starting to work towards the penthouse. And then when you get through these different levels, your income or your salary becomes an income. And what that means is, instead of saying you're on a fixed wage, now you've got expendable money that you can do what you want, when you want, where you want, with the people you want, in the time and space that you want to. So 2 months from me, I'll go, and Sal goes, I'd love to go to Portugal and we should go to buy that new hotel. All right, we'll add another week on each of those, and there's no stress.
Are you thinking about networking when you're doing that?
100%. So I'm already, we've got workshops all booked through Europe as well, as an example, and the same principle. How do I connect with the people I'm currently with? And your thought process is different, man, because now you're starting to think, and, back in the day, what are you doing? What are you up to? Was what we'd say. And then you want to go pump something. And we're like, all right, let's go rob a bank, right? That was the mentality. Now it's like, what do you do? And they go, what I do is X, Y, and Z. The old elevator pitch with one another. Even that, when I was like, elevator pitch, what's that? And my elevator pitch was, what are you doing? Good looking. Like that. That was my elevator pitch, right? And that was an outcome for me in the sense, but same thing, it's an outcome, right? Outcome of what you want in that space. And all of a sudden, I'm operating, even if I said, I'm going to pick up this girl or this girl. Now I'm spending my time 50-50. Now this girl's causing me stress, and I've gone back to lower ground one. I've got to work some space into this place and get myself back to this point. Same thing with injury. You get injured, even athletes, they're out for a period of time, they've got to build themselves back up. Now they've got to get some buffer in that, and now they can get back on a sporting field. So the same principle, as you go through these things and grow through these things, I've learned that people, the conversations, man, and the money side of things, people, as I've moved through that, I've seen people talking about, so you're thinking you're going well at thousands of dollars, people talking millions, people talking like billions in organisations, and you're like, what the heck? And how can I provide benefit and value to this conversation as an individual or organisation or business as yourself? And then if I'm this person that's going to bring leadership, high performance, why am I different to Jay who's doing the same thing? How can I be different? And this is where I feel I win, because I'm like, mate, no matter what you do, I'm going to do 10 times more, and I'm going to do it in a smarter way. I'm not going to work doesn't mean I'm just going to work for 24 hours and Jay works for 12. He could work for 12 and outdo me all day, every day by being smarter working smarter, not harder. And that principle has been what I've been good at. I'll research something, slow it down, fall behind. Jay's still working 24 hours a day, but what I'll do is I'll chat GPT as an example. I'll just go, how can I then plug that in? He's just done 12 hours worth of writing. I snapped that out in half an hour. So I just said, chat GPT, do me a favour, write an essay on, or write out something around.
Yeah.
And then edit it in. Not that I do that personally myself, but that would be an example for people to understand, where you can compress time and all of a sudden become highly valuable to a space. And that's how, you've got to be comfortable with, you don't have to lose friends. You just got to recognise that they want to be on the party. Stevie wants to be on the party scene. If you see him now, doesn't mean you don't say, how are you, brother? How's life? Oh, I'm still partying. And hey, you're a scallywag. And you walk off and you go one way or the other way. Does that mean you're better than him, or you judge him, or you think you? It means nothing, right? It means just you just don't want that. And that means and that's for everybody. Be aware of what you truly want. Write it out. What is your ideal life? Look at it. Look at your current weekly planner. Watch that they don't align, and then start to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually line those up. And I'm going to start to put these goals, dreams, aspirations, business, relationships. I want the kids. I want to get married. No, I don't. I want to travel the world. I want to start a business. I want to work for something. You define you and then put that into a mold. And when you put that into a mold, be so conscious that you say, I say, hey, Diego, come with us, brother. I'll shout you. And you say, oh, I can't do that, brother. I've got to go to work and I don't have enough money and my bill. Then there's a disconnect. As much as you like that job, what if you were to create that business at its highest level, where you've now got 10, say it was a childcare, right? You're working in a child. What if you own 10 childcares and you worked on the business, not in the business, and all of a sudden able to travel the world? That's a different conversation. Why aren't you working towards that? You don't have money, neither did I. My bank accounts were minus at times, and I just kept going with a belief. And as you said, 2.6 million followers, that's a belief. Yeah. You're good at what you do around what you do, just keep doing it. And I guarantee learn, pivot, divert, be agile, start to learn, grow, create more resources, create more diversity in the content, the resources, the education, information that goes out in your expertise to the world and spaces that you step into, you're about to tee off into, and watch what happens. Just watch. I guarantee your life will elevate, not isolate.
I love that. All right, we're going to go into our exclusive. So thank you so much if you've watched this to this point. And if you want to watch the rest, go on to the 58take.locals.com. We're about to get into finances, some politics, and we're going to lift a lid on a few things. Oh, I love it. Let's go. Let's go. That's the way.
And I wanted to do this. I'll tell you why before we finish this up.
Yeah.
This prick there is because this is who they're aligned with, right? So if you can do that and you can get in a space where you prick people's ears, let's go. That's the energy you're going to bring to the space. Learn that lesson and learn the benefit and value of a conversation. Learn how to tap into the inner psyche of the individual sitting on the other side around what you're passionate about. Go and live that every single day and crush life and bring the energy that brings other energy to the room.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, brother. I like it. Everyone that's listening right now, you're part of the database, so you get emailed this. Everything will be in the description regarding all the programs, the websites, and the social links as well. So you can start there if you want to expand. You can also contact Jeffrey directly. Jeffery Morgan, everything in the descriptions. See you guys soon. It's been the 58 Take. Peace. Ciao.